Hello and welcome to Queering IFS, a podcast by two internal family systems therapists, Alessio and Jude. I'm Alessio Rizzo. I'm an IFS therapist, a clinical consultant for IFS, I'm a trainer and a blogger. And with me we have Jude. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Alessio. Hello, I'm Jude. I'm a Level 3 certified IFS therapist and approved clinical consultant and occasional trainer. And in this podcast, we explore themes and issues connected with gender, sexuality, and neurodiversity through queer and queering lenses.
Right. Hello. Hi, Jude.
Hey, Alessio.
And hello to our special guest today, Hani. Hi, Hani.
Hi,
Welcome, Hani.
thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for being with us on today's podcast. So, before we introduce ourselves, I'm going to just say the beautiful title that we have for this podcast and how amazing it is to have you here, Hani, with us. So, today we're going to talk about what can we learn from IFS in our journey towards transitional justice in Syria. Wow, just reading it kind of makes me, does something to my system. But first things first, let's introduce ourselves, shall we? Jude, why don't you go first?
I thought you might say that.
Straight away. Yes.
Hello. I'm Jude. I'm a Level 3 certified IFS psychotherapist and approved clinical consultant. I'm also a ecotherapist and circle facilitator, and I am ADHD, I'm neurodivergent, and genderqueer. And I think that's all I need to say about myself today. Alessio.
Oh, thank you.
Please tell the listeners who you are.
Always good to hear you first, Jude. Kind of gives time to think. So this is Alessio, pronounced he, they. I am a psychotherapist in London, but I'm fully Italian. In the IFS world, I am a Level 3 therapist, clinical consultant, assistant trainer, ... with more things coming up. I identify as queer, genderqueer, and neurodivergent in many ways. What I thought was dyslexia initially, I think is more like an ADHD piece, but the discovery continues. And I am super happy to have our friend and colleague Hani today on the podcast. So Hani, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, and thanks again for having me. It's very difficult to say who you are because we are, we are many.
Yeah.
And I always struggle with this question. I always like to say I am Syrian because it was where I was born and it's the country that I loved so much, but exiled me at the same time. So I have this love and hate relationship with it. I'm Lebanese as well. My mom is from Lebanon. And I also struggled with that because in Lebanon, because of the law, Lebanese mothers cannot give citizenship to their kids. So I was living in Lebanon as a refugee for many years, but I never got, my right to have a citizenship. So I was denied my rights as a citizen there, knowing my family is from there. And I'm now living in Belgium as a refugee for 5 years. In August, it will be 5 years. Which also a country that I didn't choose. It was chosen for me by the United Nations system.
Right.
I didn't choose to be Syrian, I didn't choose to be Lebanese, and I didn't choose to come and live in Belgium. But here I am. I'm living here with my partners and 3 cats, and I'm a father of cats, I would say. I love cats, and they helped me a lot to learn how to survive, but at the same time, how to calm down when it is too much. I'm a psychoanalyst in practice and a theater practitioner as well. I studied theater and I use theater in social spaces, especially in community building. And I'm not sure if I am neurodivergent or what, but I know exactly that I am not neurodivergent. But I don't know where I am on that spectrum. Yeah. And I met Alessio in Jordan, which I loved. Loved meeting him there, but also loved the country, the setting, why I was there. It was an important moment in my life, I would say, my current period.
Yes.
Thank you, Hani. And so, yes, you and Alessio met in Jordan. That's how you came to be here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was on an IFS training.
It was on an IFS training, and so I had the part that wanted to invite you, Hani, as soon as the training was finished, but I had to hold back because I was on the staff team of that training. But I just want to pause for a moment to acknowledge what you said about being exiled and not choosing your country or where you are, and how easy it is maybe for me to say, well, I'm fully Italian, and I kind of chose to move to the UK, and that might be I might take that for granted for me, and like you and many other people, maybe other queer people from Syria, that's not a choice, and then various laws make it impossible for you to acquire Lebanese citizenship. Just a word of my heart sinking as I hear that, and also the joy of having you here, hearing about your cats and your partners, and knowing you personally, knowing the joy that you bring to the space. Yeah, so really thank you for bringing all of you here, really.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I know as you were talking about your journey, your physical journey from country to country, I think, that speaking to you for the first time, I heard about transitional justice. So, and how, we can use IFS to learn about it. So would it be okay to, Hani, to tell us a bit more about what it is for you and where you are with your thinking on this topic?
Yeah, transitional justice. Transitional justice is, for me, I think it's one of main topics in my life. Speaking about justice in particular, transitional justice comes after this transition in Syria because, the regime has fallen in 2024, end of 2024. But I would say working around and seeking, justice or inquiring, the question of justice was in the center of my life from a lived experience point of view. I'm a son of a father who disappeared in 2019. in 2010, and the war, before the war started, actually. So my dad was kidnapped by the government back then, and he disappeared for 2 years. And before that, I had good life. I was kind of spoiled child, and I lived relatively kind of privileged life in Syria, I would say. And one day I was at university, and my brother called me, and he said, group of people came and just kidnapped our father, and we never knew where he was. And this was my first encounter with, this is not just like, what's going on? Like, can we ask a lawyer? Can we get, someone from the government to tell us? But we were denied even to, ask questions or hire lawyers or, follow any dignified process that anyone in the world could have the right to have, at least knowing, at least having information. Information was the least kind of, the very basic right that we could ask for, but we were denied. And after my dad, on a different timelines, I lost around 10 to 15 of my family members. Some of them, while they were checking where is my dad, they disappeared. Others were just like, kidnapped while coming back home from work, and others were shot or in different kind of setting, and living as, young man. I was studying medicine back then. I had to stop because I could not, put all my mind into studying medicine, which was very, very demanding back then. Medicine is very demanding. I left my school. We lost our money. We sold many things because the government was also asking us to pay a lot of bribes and money for, individuals to give us information. So these were my first kind of, encounters with justice, and also with the question of God, of believing. I come from a Muslim family, and I was very religious back then. I followed like kind of a way of making sense of life through Islam. But it made me again question, like, this is not justice. I could not find it in Islam. I could not find it in systems and policies and politics and social life around me. And I was instead confronted with so much loss and so much despair and anger. Also the Syrian Revolution started in 2011, and there was a big social movement. I mean, it changed the world in a way, because I believe it's not only about Syria, because the whole world got impacted from the Syrian crisis, because millions of refugees, came to Europe, and we changed kind of the demographics of we can see Syrians everywhere now, but also impacted policies around refugees, asylum seekers, and many other stuff. So there was a big, on a personal level and on a social level, like, question of what is justice, and how can we move forward in our life if we don't feel justice in our lives. And this made me change to study psychology back then in 2012. And I was very immersed in working with refugees coming to Lebanon from Syria from a psychosocial perspective. When I learned psychology, I learned it from a very kind of diagnostic disorder oriented.
Yeah.
This is how I think the curriculums in Syria and Lebanon is very outdated, I think.
I don't know that it's much better or much less, more up to date in many places. I think that diagnostic pathology paradigm is incredibly strong. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think what saved me is that I did my training in psychoanalysis, which was in a way less diagnostic. Still has its own issues and problems in Lebanon, especially when where I learned it. I feel much better about it, practicing it and learning it in Belgium now, for many reasons. But there was this big question of what is my symptom and why I suffer, because for me, suffering comes with question of symptom, right? We suffer because there's, pushing symptom or symptoms that come to the surface, and these symptoms are calling for help, for attention, crying, and pushing us. And this is where my understanding was, where I feel I'm not doing well. And at the same time, because I was working with individuals in Lebanon and with groups as well, I was like, we need millions of therapists, psychoanalysts, psychologists to work with people. There must be a social community movement that, help us to heal. And there was this question of, what is the symptom of this community I'm coming from? And this was maybe kind of a crossroad, I would say, toward coming out from a clinical setting on a one-on-one basis to community kind of practice.
So I think I'm hearing kind of the first learning that you have in psychoanalysis, psychology, whatever, is around the individual. Like the individual, it's like, I'm one person and I have a symptom and it's my mind to fix and it's my problem, and it's that real individual kind of lens. But then you're kind of moving to more of a kind of, well, hang on a minute, what's our symptom? It sounds like moving from the individual to the collective understanding. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I think also, now looking back at it, I believe that in psychology in general, especially where we call evidence-based techniques or methodologies, it was all transported from the West to us, right. Whatever the West is. And even like psychoanalysis, the reference of psychoanalysis, the reference of family therapy, we always understand and the West is like, life is very individualistic in some way. I don't want to generalize, but it's about the subject as an individual and its relationship to the world and to having a family, like father figure, a mother figure. I come from a place where I didn't have one father and one mother. I lived in kind of a tribe setting. I had 12 uncles, and from my mother and my father's side, I had also 12 aunts from both sides, and all of them played the role of a father and a mother for me. So when Freud speaks about, Oedipus complex or whatever, the word one father, I had 12 fathers. I didn't have one father. Like, how do we deal with this dilemma in our culture? Even in family therapy or systemic therapy, I mean, I don't come from, and millions of people like me, we don't come from a normative Western family kind of setting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. Yeah. So it's like the theory doesn't fit. Yeah. But it's given that normative title, like this is the norm, this is what, and yeah.
Listening to you, Hani, I think I hope one day you write a book about all these aspects that you are naming. And I'm thinking in terms of IFS, how it's quite internal, and it's your internal system, it's your parts, and how difficult it is to move beyond it sometimes in the way we teach it. And I remember in the training in Jordan with people coming from war zones, from Palestine, asking, what do we do? How do we help hundreds of people who've been affected by an ongoing war where there is no one that you can turn to understand what's happened, like to tell me the truth. I mean, it's appalling that you had to ask, the government asked your family for bribes, and then more people from your extended family in this tribe were targeted. Because as you said, you didn't have just a father, but I imagine more people were targeted. It's just it's just excruciatingly painful just to think about it, and then to look at the psychological tools we've got, psychoanalysis, IFS, they're so individualistic. And how do we adapt them or use them to help a community? And also, what are the limitations of them? Because these are structural problems we're dealing with, in terms of transitional justice, all about, who do we turn to when a crime is committed? If even a solicitor doesn't want to take the case because they're scared, I imagine, of the consequences. And now that the regime is gone, what happens next? How can things be repaired? So big questions, and I don't know to what extent IFS has any answer to it, but maybe something can be used from this westernized model, but something also needs to be changed and adapted in the IFS model to be helpful for non-Western communities.
Yeah, I mean, I think the individual level of it is very relevant. I mean, they're very important, because also people suffer on an individual level, and it's like psychoanalysis saved me from whatever I went through in the past 15 years in my life. Being on the couch speaking, the fact of having the ability to speak was very important for me. In Syria, as part of my research as well, as the ability to speak and to articulate what you want and what you need and what you are suffering from, and what you don't like, this power of language. Yes, last week I was in contact with a woman that I'm going to work with on my PhD research next year. about her child she lost in the war in Syria, and it's a very tragic story that you can find in, I don't know if you can find similar in Greek mythology or her son in 2024 took a boat to come to Europe because for him it was his only way to survive living in Syria, and his father helped him to arrange this dangerous trip. He paid for the smugglers, and he arranged the boat for him, and he took him to the shore, and he by hand put him on the boat. And his mother didn't know all of this, and she was just called saying that the boat exploded in the ocean, in the Mediterranean. And it was her biggest son, oldest son. Few weeks later, she almost lost her mind. But also there was a layer that women are not, regarded or consulted or part of such decision. Like, we come from a patriarchal society that woman does not count in a way. Queer people does not count. Straight men are the center of everything, and it's a huge problem in a way. Like, how can we survive life with this, like this? I'm not able to find the word in English, like this pattern or this system that is proven to be bad system anyway, the patriarchal, masculine, hetero kind of normative system. Anyway, few months later, they heard that the Russian army took her son. He was found alive on the shore in Syria, and they took him to the prison. And since then, till 2024, when the fall of the regime happened, the government was taking money from the parents to give them information about the child and saying that he is in this exact prison, you need to pay more, he will be released. And she was living in hope. And then after the fall down of the regime, all prisons were open and he was not found. No traces of him. So she does not know if he is alive or if he is dead. Was he still in the sea where they are lying to take money, or he was in prison and killed and buried with one of the mass graves there? A lot of ambiguity, a lot of uncertainty about what happened. And she told me that she stopped speaking for now months after her husband came, and he said, we need to decide that he is dead and we cannot do anything about it. She said, then I need to have a funeral and a grave for him so I can visit and cry over this grave. And he said, I asked the imam, the sheikh, or the leader, the religious leader in Islam, and they said it's not allowed to create a ceremony for someone who is not there, the body. So there was this big dilemma, like, how do we deal with the loss without having a body, without having certainty about what happened? And how can we open a grave for no one? And in Islam, it is forbidden. And since then, she stopped speaking. She said, I'm not speaking to anyone, and I'm not asking anything anymore. She started to lose her teeth because of clenching at night, and she started to develop some sort of a tumor in her breast. When I talked to her last week, she was only texting me by messages. And she said, I would like to speak to you because maybe speaking can help me to heal. And this is why I was thinking a lot about language and how articulating what is going inside of us can maybe help us. And at the same time, when I think of transitional justice, I mean, you know, by definition, transitional justice is, I was looking up how to call them, definitions, and let me read quickly one. It refers to a process that a society take to address a large-scale human rights violation. So it's a process that the whole nation or country agrees that, okay, to move to a better place as a nation, we need to move into a transition. And this transition should center justice process in the heart of it. And to have this transition happening, or this justice happening, we must acknowledge what happened. We must deal with what happened.
Yes.
We must first have some sense of, information. What happened to my son? Where is he? When another woman said, I don't want to hear how was my son and my husband tortured to death. I don't want to hear this part of information, but I want to hear where maybe I can find a bone that belongs to them, that I can carry back with me home, put it on the ground and cry whenever I need to cry over something. So this kind of acknowledgement and sense of, there was a crime, there was a war, that all of that war impacted the whole world. How can we move forward with it? The question for me, can we take 25 million people to individual clinics and do IFS with them, or therapy with them, or analysis with them? It's impossible. I mean, I hope we have therapists that can do that. But then the question of, then how can we learn from IFS? What can we learn from IFS, for example, to apply on a community level that maybe can help us move forward? We speak about, in IFS, I was fascinated by the terminologies, exiles. I am an exiled person.
Right, yeah.
A lot of people are exiled, so there's also parts. I'm a part in my community. I'm an exiled part in my community. I'm wounded. I suffered, and for some reason I was pushed away. Now I'm fighting back to come back to Syria. But then, what does it mean to this exiled to be back home? I don't know what will come up, what will come out. All these people who are trying to now, firefighters or managers who are trying to make things under control or whatever, mechanisms they have, but using different rules. We are being controlled by religious men now in Syria, these very timid, rigid managers that they want us to do things in a certain way. But this is not how it works for me.
And there's something that you were saying then, Hani, around the transitional justice of, the needing the acknowledgement that these things have happened. There has been a war, there have been crimes, there have been atrocities, there have been disappearances, deaths, murders, the needing of the, I can really hear the IFS in it, because it's like the witnessing has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The witnessing and the validation has to happen. But if the transition is being taken forward by managers and firefighters, then there's something about that's still missing.
Definitely. I mean,
yeah.
It feels like I was looking up some information about like what can we do, and there are practical things that needs to be applied, like the truth process, like knowing what happened, documentation. Like I don't know if my cousins, for example, are documented, that are if they are documented as missing, and if yes, what kind of civil rights has, like for sometimes like we don't think about these like questions, right? Like for example, if a father died, then there's an inheritance process that should take place, right?
Yeah.
And then the children or the family of this person will benefit from, I mean, not benefit, but like have the right to, like take these rights that this person had before, or property or whatever. In the case of the missing in Syria, they are not registered as a lot like dead.
Right.
So their families stay suspended forever because they are not dead, they are not documented dead. A wife is forever married to a person who's never dead. She cannot marry someone else, for example. All these questions of practicality, like what can we do with all of this? Like, is there like a recognition of what happened? The perpetrators that still live with us, like what can we do? Like in IFS, for example, there was like a big question, like for me when I attended the training, like everyone has good parts, there's no bad parts. And what do we do with these, like, perpetrators who I know for a fact they contributed to the disappearance of my family, to the killing of my family, and they destroyed my life. How can I look into their eyes as humans, as people who acted from a part, not from a self?
Right.
Like,
how do you hold accountability?
Exactly.
Without and also, without demonizing, and knowing that you can't. There can't be justice, and I'm doing air quotes for anyone listening, just listening. There can't be the justice in the way that we want it to be, in the kind of the individual wrongdoings and punishments, and I mean, not we want it to be, the way it's expected to be, the way that you expect the law to work. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thinking about what we have got to give you an answer to give an answer really is I'm thinking of the work of Dick Schwartz with offenders, and these are people who then Dick Schwartz says, oh yeah, there are no bad parts, but these are people for whom the justice has already done its course, so they've gone through a process, they've been deemed guilty, But that's not happening in the circumstances that you describe, Hani. So in a way, I don't think IFS has an answer when those people in power have the power to live in denial of the consequences of what they're doing and what they're enforcing. And therefore, we can't just go and sit with these people and expect them to do some IFS because they're not there yet. So there is what I keep on seeing is an extreme power imbalance. And until that power is somehow changed and these people can get access to their self, their hearts can open, I don't think much can change. But what we have now is an opportunity to start with those who have been impacted by the injustice and offer the witnessing, offer maybe, I don't know if one-to-one therapy can never be enough for 25 millions, but perhaps groups of people just listening to their stories. And it doesn't even have to be just, IFS, but there's something about all this suffering, all this grief has not been given any space. It's just been denied, either institutionally because you don't even have a bone to grieve, or because the authorities don't register this person as dead, then you cannot have your completion. I mean, all these stories can perhaps come together. There can be a space for at least the stories to be told and witnessed. And that's as far as I go, because there's parts of me that go, and it's not enough. And the powers are still in place, and the discrimination and the exiling, the violence, the denial is still part of the privilege that these people have. Oh, that's me.
Yeah, thank you. I have been thinking about EFS, external family system,
Right.
not IFS, internal. And how can we externalize this work of IFS towards the outside? Maybe call it EFS. I don't know if it exists or not. I'm not speaking about family therapy in a family therapy way. It's more about looking into the collective and how can we bring these notions of working with these parts that are present in the community and the collective, but also acknowledging the internal parts of each external part as well. And it took me to a very interesting concept called restorative justice. I don't know if you have heard of it.
Yeah.
And how tribes, tribal communities from before used to use restorative justice, not to maybe punish as our juridical systems now like put one in a jail, or how can we maybe repair relationships where it's possible, restore dignity of people who were like humiliated, exiled. How can we rebuild social fabrics? Because we live together, and I am Syrian, and my perpetrator is Syrian. We don't have another place to go to. We can live forever in exile, but I don't like to live here forever. I would like to have like a moment where I can go back home when I want. And I think same for my perpetrator as well, because I know my perpetrator is my neighbor. We grew up together, and he loves his home as well, same as I do. And how can we maybe create conditions where multiple truths can coexist together, I have my truth, you have your truth, but we will work it out in a way that justice bring us together. So I don't know. It's a research kind of, but thinking of the qualities of the self again, and IFS, like having this kind of curiosity, compassion, maybe could help. I don't know, to try at least to move forward with what can be done to restore the dignity of this community, this society.
Yes.
And it makes me think about that sense of kind of things being stuck or suspended, because nobody can move on. You can't move on. I mean, you can't move for lots of reasons, because you just don't know what's happened to people. But also, you can't move on because you haven't been able to talk about what's happened to you, haven't been able to have that witnessed and understood, and how, that the internal system, that's what we do with the internal system, right? We listen to parts, we understand their story, we hear them, we give them a voice, and by giving them a voice, things are able to change. And yeah, so there's something here about the question of how to allow people on a bigger scale, how to witness, how to allow people to feel their pain, but also for other people to understand their pain, to have something to allow things to come out of this kind of stuck place. And I guess it's often that, when a regime changes or something changes, the people who come in, it's like, right, okay, now we're going to just do it differently. But it's missing that step. It's missing the step of, well, hang on, what's just happened? What have we all been through? Yeah, and that feels like the self part in this. It's not just moving to another organization of things and just carrying on. It's like we have to pause here and find ways to feel this.
Yeah. And I think the only way to do it is to work with all parts equally.
Right.
And on a external level, not to exclude queer people, not to exclude women, not to centralize actions and moving forward on heterosexual man from Muslim background, because this is what's happening in Syria today. We need to have everyone involved in a way, believing in the wisdom of these parts, like community part, these individuals, with their lived experience as well.
And I heard you say, Hani, the importance of multiple truths. And I believe that at some level, these perpetrators know that they're doing something that's harming other people. And it's, as long as they have probably the group that holds the power, they can live with the privilege of not really facing. And we're not talking about just the justice consequences and, penalty, but just the human act of understanding that because they were doing that little thing, which is part of a larger one, people have been exiled. Mothers have lost children, fathers have lost children, people, their neighbors, have been harmed. I believe that there is a lot of denial and a lot of parts in these groups with power who are working hard to never really look inside for a second and realize, oh, well, I'm part of this. And I'm privileged just because I'm on the good side, in a way, the one that has the power. And if I hear correctly, Hani, what you're saying is that they also need to be part of the discussion. So it's not just the 25 millions, but then after they have their story heard and the heartbreak is dealt with, can there be a bridge between these truths? Because maybe they have their own other experiences.
Yeah, I mean, maybe quickly, I know we are maybe tight in time,
Yes.
like a very small story. It's one of the biggest stories in Syria now. It's about called the massacre of Tadamun, and it's one of the most documented massacres that happened in Syria in 2013. And it was one man who almost killed up to 280 people, and he threw them on like he digged a hole on the ground, and he asked his officers. He was an officer in the army. He asked his soldiers to film him while asking people to run toward the hole, and then when they arrive to the the edge, he shoots them so they fall down dead, and then he put tires on them and he burns them, and then he closed the thing. It was a big thing. He was arrested like a couple of months ago, and after a long years of process of figuring out and getting this information and videos that he filmed. But there was one video that struck me a lot, that he was filming a family of 6 children and their father and mother that he killed. And it's the story of Dr. Rani al-Abbasi. She's a very famous political prisoner, and she disappeared for many, many years. Like, it was a big topic also in Syria. And they just found that he was the person who killed her and the 6 children. Like, her youngest child was like 8 months old or something. But he was saying on the video, "This is for you, my brother." And we know that his brother was killed by the opposition. So he had to kill almost 300 people to revenge for his brother. I understand that what he did is coming from a place of hurt. He lost his brother. I don't justify what he did. And it's not justifiable, and he should go into a legal process. But it made me think a lot. Like, he was portrayed as the monster of the century in Syria. He killed 300 people with cold blood, filming it. But then 1 second on a video, he said, "This is for my brother who was killed by you," like to the opposition. For me, has a lot of layers that we need to speak about as well. And transition to a justice place cannot happen without listening to all these stories.
Which goes back to the individual in a way. If we go back to IFS, if this person had a space to bring this hurt, maybe it would have turned differently. So maybe we need more than 25 million. Maybe we need double that amount, because probably we're talking about everybody is hurt, and then parts are doing whatever they believe it's needed to cope with that hurt. I doubt killing people will have healed that, but maybe, if people can go into some vulnerabilities in a safe space and talk, things might be different. Yet they need to do it of their own volition. They cannot be forced to do so. Oh, well, I'm aware of time. I wish we had triple the time, Hani. I could really appreciate all that you are speaking for, and your experience, but that of millions of people. I really believe that your voice is so important, and such an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad to be here and honored as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I wish one day we can have one like in-person meeting in Syria.
In Syria.
Yeah. I'm wondering, what was I going to ask you, honey? Yeah, I mean, and it sounds like you're doing some amazing work at the moment, and you have, all these projects and PhDs and things. And is there anything you would like people to know about? Like, if people want to find out more about you and what you're doing, where could they go? Or is there anything you'd like to share?
I mean, I have, I started something called Healing on the Move, and it's a network of mental health professionals who are on the move like me, and offering mental health companionship, we call it, not therapy, to people on the move as well, who speaks same language in a way. So you can find more information on healingonthemove.com and also on Instagram, Healing on the Move.
Right. And we'll put that in the show notes for people, so nobody needs to worry about grabbing a pen. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Great way to start my Wednesday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I really want to appreciate you sharing your voice, and also telling us, sharing other stories from a world that is so far away from, for me, my very incredibly privileged life in a country I was born in and I can choose to be in. And just you giving voice to your experience and the experiences of others is so powerful, and I'm really grateful for you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jude. So how would people contact you if they wanted you to get in touch with you, Jude?
Oh, for me, you can go to my website, which is anchoredinself.co.uk, or my Instagram, which is anchoredinself, anchored_in_self. And Alessio, how about you?
Well, I don't use Instagram. I'm sorry. I'm probably too old for that. But people can find all the things I'm up to on my website, therapywithalessio.com.
And if you've been moved by this podcast, please do like, subscribe, and share it with anyone you think might be interested. And we're always looking for more voices to come here and share stories as we continue to queer IFS, question and be curious about all aspects of self and parts. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Hani, for being here. Thank you, Alessio.
Yeah.
And we'll be back soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.